Welcome to the Plan B CRNA podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Jones, and I'm so excited that you're here. The Plan B CRNA podcast is the only show made specifically for nurse anesthetists who are exploring options outside of their traditional career paths. This is the place to expand your mind and your goals as we uncover new ways to produce side income together. Journey with me as I go down various rabbit holes to explore the best Plan B options for you. This episode is brought to you by On-Call Capital. On-Call Capital is dedicated to educating CRNAs and other healthcare providers about investing outside of the traditional stock market. On-Call Capital also provides opportunities for you, yes, you, to create passive income and generational wealth while also lowering your taxable income through investments in the apartment and alternative investment spaces. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, make sure you do that right now so that you don't miss an episode. Thanks so much for joining me today, and now on with the show. Welcome to the rabbit hole on the Plan B CRNA podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Jones, and throughout my journey in finding a Plan B, I've gone down numerous rabbit holes to figure out which ones work for me. And since I've done some of this research already, I only think it's right to bring that information to fellow CRNAs to help aid in your search. As always, it's important for you, the listener, to do your own research and form your own opinions. Everyone's situation is unique, and a Plan B that works for one person doesn't always work for another. Self-awareness is the key in any decision you make, since you must have an accurate grasp of your own strengths, weaknesses, and goals. All right, let's get to it. Without further ado, our rabbit hole of the day is dun, 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 hemp and cannabis. Now, the growth of CBD and cannabis products over the past few years is something that few of us can ignore. Cannabidiol, or CBD as it is commonly known, it's earning a reputation as one of the most versatile components of the cannabis plant. CBD is not psychoactive like its fellow cannabis compound tetrahydrocannabinol. I think I got it right that time. Better known as THC. And it's important to distinguish between the two because federal and state laws on these components are changing regularly. Hemp-derived CBD and THC products were made legal on the federal level via the 2018 Farm Bill, while cannabis-derived CBD products remain illegal. Some state laws still prohibit all CBD products, while some states go as far as to allow recreational marijuana use. It can get really confusing. Now, the state of North Carolina, where I live, is more middle of the road. They allow hemp-derived CBD and THC, but only now is medical marijuana even being discussed in the legislature. And even with those restrictions, I can't help but see the signs of a burgeoning industry. Stores have popped up all over town with hemp-derived Delta 8 and Delta 10 THC products offered in at least 10 locations here in Winston-Salem, and CBD is offered in even more. Even Kratom, a plant that has helped people deal with chronic pain and opioid addiction, is sold at many of these places as well. And speaking of medical conditions, I could go over the benefits of CBD, THC, and Kratom, but I think we all know the basics. There are benefits for certain mental health problems, pain relief, alleviation of certain cancer symptoms such as nausea or decreased appetite, neuroprotective properties, heart benefits, and sleep improvement, to name just a few. I'll let you research and confirm those on your own. What you're here for is the opportunity. How can you take advantage of this new industry? Is this boom sustainable or is it bound to fizzle out? Well, let's dive deeper into the numbers to actually find that out. And I will say, after I dove in, this wasn't a really easy task because the terms CBD and cannabis are often used interchangeably by reporters and even researchers in the space. Just like the laws in each state seem to blur the lines, the overall value of the CBD and cannabis markets is not easy to calculate, with different valuations and projections based on different definitions. But even the most conservative estimates are still pretty astounding. Grandview Research places the global CBD market value at $2.8 billion in 2020, with a compound annual growth rate of 21% from 2021 to 2028, which means that we expect to reach a value of $13.4 billion by the time we hit 2028. Now, this is the most conservative estimate that I found, and it's still saying that the industry is expected to 5x over the next 7 years. Now for a higher end projection. Global Market Insights places the global CBD market at $7.1 billion in 2020, with a compound annual growth rate of 35.7% from 2021 to 2027, resulting in over a $108.8 billion value by 2027. That means that they expect the market to 15x over the next 6 years. I mean, wow. So no matter how you cut it, the CBD and cannabis markets are projected to grow quickly in the next several years. So it brings us back to that question. How can you take advantage of opportunities in the space? Well, I've got several ideas for you to think about, and I've divvied them up into passive and active categories. Let's get into it by starting on the passive side. If you're like me, you like to set your money to work for you while you enjoy your free time. Now, the easiest way to do this is by investing in cannabis companies through stocks and ETFs. So what does that look like? You'll need to break it down into 7 steps here. Number 1, you must understand the various types of products out there. There are, hemp-derived CBDs, cannabis-derived CBDs, medical marijuana, and recreational marijuana. Again, the legal status of each will determine the growth prospects for the companies that you invest in. Number 2, you should know the different types of cannabis companies. There are 3 main business types: growers and retailers who are involved in the cultivation and harvesting of hemp and cannabis. American farmers currently can't grow high THC marijuana, but Canadian companies can, which makes them less risky. Look into companies such as Kronos Group, Organigram Holdings, Aurora, and Canopy Growth. Hemp and cannabis-focused biotechnology companies. They focus on extracting CBD and other components from hemp and cannabis to develop new drugs. I'd check out companies like Charlotte's Web and GW Pharmaceuticals, along with Jazz Pharmaceuticals. There are also ancillary product and service providers, and these are the ones who provide supportive services to those growers and distributors. I like to equate these companies with those who just happen to be selling pickaxes and shovels during the California gold rush. Think of companies such as Scott's Miracle-Gro and Kushco Holdings. Now, for number 3, you should understand the risks of investing in the industry. We've already discussed the legal and political risks, but there are also supply and demand imbalances in the agricultural sector, over-the-counter stock risks that affect liquidity of stock trading, and financial constraints of new and even established businesses who have to raise capital to become profitable over time. Number 4, this is still like any other stock investment. You should know what you're looking for specifically in a top marijuana stock. That means researching the management team, understanding the growth strategy, and competitive advantages and risks for starters. You should thoroughly go through the company's financial statements and examine how many warrants and convertible securities the company has issued. A high percentage of that could mean that the stock price could drop in the future due to substantial dilution. Hemp and marijuana growers with lower cost structures will tend to be the most competitive, so compare and contrast companies with one another. Number 5, consider investing in cannabis ETFs instead. There are several marijuana-focused exchange-traded funds out there now, in case you'd rather just spread your risk around. But there is still risk here too. Out of the 9 ETFs that I looked at, only 1 is in positive territory for the year to date at 3.67%, while 7 of them are down in double digits. For comparison, the S&P 500 has gained about 22% year to date. However, if you are still interested, check out the link in the show notes for a listing of those specific sector ETFs. And number 6, if you've determined that you would like to invest after all of these steps, then go ahead and take the leap. Just keep in mind that putting all of your eggs in one basket is rarely a good idea. So you should probably consider starting with small positions to feel it all out. Your investment should become less risky over time if your investment thesis proves correct and the company does well. However, don't hesitate to reevaluate if the company starts to perform poorly. Which leads me to the last point, number 7. You should stay on top of changing cannabis industry dynamics. Changes occur rapidly in newer industries, and this one's no exception. Yes, you should take a long-term view, but make sure that you keep up to date with regulatory changes and news that can affect your investment criteria. All of these stock investing suggestions apply to investing in venture startups in the space as well. So if you know someone who's starting their own company or has their own company and you believe in what they're doing, then you may decide to invest some of your own money into that company. That's great as long as you continue to take a business approach to analyzing the company. But if Bubba comes up to you and says, hey, I got some of my buddies together and we're going to buy 100 acres and start up a hemp farm, do you want in? All I can say to you is, well, you can trust, but you better verify. Moving along, let's look at some of the more active ways to get into the space. Hemp and cannabis are incredibly versatile products, so it's impossible to confine them to just one sector. For our purposes today, I'm going to split these opportunities up into 5 categories. Number 1, general business opportunities. With so many uses for CBD, it's no surprise that business opportunities are equally abundant. One of the fields is in wholesale distribution, where markup prices are normally set around 20 to 40% with a license required. You'll have to consider your strategy, logistics, and networking. Startup costs may be between $50 and $100, with many companies actually offering a discount on their products when you start. You can also attempt to get into the influencer space through multiple avenues. You may decide that you want to become a CBD marketer, whether through affiliate marketing, content marketing, internet, or social media marketing. Or perhaps you just want some free stuff. In that case, you should look into becoming a blogger and reviewer. These can help you boost your SEO and online visibility, which can in turn amplify the conversations you have to reach more people. If 5 to 10-year-olds can make money opening toys, maybe you can make some money trying hemp and cannabis products, right? Then, of course, you could run your own CBD podcast where you promote other sellers in the space. By having a podcast, you become an authority and can begin to earn money through sponsorships. You can attract crowdfunding opportunities and utilize affiliate marketing. I got to say here, guys, I don't make anything from this podcast. So, enjoy it as you will. Maybe you'd have better luck having a CBD podcast. But the thing I was told when I first got into it is you have to give it at least 9 months to a year of constant content production before you can expect to see any results. I'm at the 8-month mark. Go me. Now, you could always start your own subscription service instead. I like to think of those folks who put together gift baskets for Christmas. They collect orders, purchase the items, put together the packaging, and ta-da! Now, since you're in charge of your own subscription pricing, you can forecast your monthly revenue. Be careful not to price yourself out of business, though. Most of these services cost between $10 to $40 a month. Lastly, you could get into CBD packaging by selling bottles and containers. You can keep it simple by just working with a production facility to produce the basic or designer containers to then sell to companies. Or you could work in the design process and design labels and the presentation of product information, thus allowing you to charge higher prices as a result. Number 2, food and beverage opportunities. Let's start off with the obvious one here, edibles. Creating edibles requires an initial extraction of the CBD or THC into oil form. Then the oil is infused into a carrier oil before being placed inside of your culinary treat. The cost of production heavily depends on how much CBD or THC oil your edibles contain. You can expect to pay anywhere between 4 cents to $3 per milligram of CBD, which is a huge variance. If you invest in an extraction device, bulk products will be more worth the effort to provide yourself with a great return on investment. But make no mistake, though, this is not a cheap endeavor. Food licenses cost between $700 to $4,000, along with the associated costs of starting and running a business, such as business registration and product liability insurance. You'll also have to figure out whether or not you will label and package products yourself. Then, of course, there are website costs, kitchen tools and equipment, and so on and so forth. The other obvious one is putting CBD or THC into beverage form. Maybe customers want a CBD infused coffee in the morning or a THC infused cocktail at the end of a long day. Keep in mind that cannabinoids are insoluble in water, so these beverages must utilize an emulsifier to enhance bioavailability. Many of the costs will be similar to producing edibles, but the cost of equipment may be different. If your production capacity is small, you may be able to make them from home. Better yet, why not combine the two? If you're feeling frisky, you could just start your own CBD/THC restaurant. Yes, you'll have to set aside time and money to secure the space, and you'll have to go through the permitting process, work on testing recipes, et cetera, et cetera. The average cost of opening a restaurant is around $375,000, but a lower scale restaurant could be closer to the $100,000 to $175,000 range. Of course, you could always take the food truck route instead, which has lower overhead and greater flexibility. For more information on food trucks, check out my interview with Jimmy Kimball in episode 39. Number 3, health and beauty opportunities. Now, I will just say there is huge opportunity in this sector. The versatility of CBD just lends itself to widespread adoption in the health and beauty world. From cosmetics such as skin creams and facial moisturizers to eye gels and peeling masks, there are a ton of products out there just waiting to be CBD'd. Lotions and soaps, tinctures and topicals, they're all the rage. So why not find a way to cash in through creation or just sales of these products? It can cost a few hundred to a few $1,000s to get started, but you can get going quickly depending on whether or not you're creating your own products or just selling someone else's. Better yet, why not open a spa? Many CRNAs are already opening med spas for aesthetic purposes, so why not do double duty with CBD massage specialists to work out those kinks? You can cater to women or even athletes. Yes, this can cost upwards of $100,000 to get started, but you may be able to secure a small business loan for many of those expenses. And let's not forget about supplements and medication. With all of the touted anxiolytic and analgesic benefits from CBD products, it makes sense that you could sell these products to the health-focused consumer. If you do this online, you'll need an online store, basic configuration and training. That can cost upwards of $5,000. However, you can find online store providers that are less costly upfront. Number 4, fashion and apparel opportunities. The easiest thing to think of here is creating fun, clever ideas for t-shirts, coffee mugs, and the like that are sold in local CBD stores. I see this as a potentially huge market, but there is already some saturation. Let's face it, there are probably enough people walking around with a pot leaf on a tie-dye t-shirt, okay? But there really are pretty endless opportunities to start marketing to specific businesses in town for design and collaboration on apparel and accessories. Okay, now we're going to get into some weird stuff, so hang with me here. To finish out the apparel section, I want you to think about how often you're on your feet every day. Quite a bit, right? Now imagine that your socks were not only comfortable, but that the fabric was actually infused with CBD. This can be done by product manufacturers who can infuse droplets of CBD into a protective polymer coating. Okay, the jury is still out on the efficacy of this one, but it is a trend that's worth watching. I'm thinking CBD-infused compression garments for athletes or a knee wrap for post-knee replacement patients. There are some interesting opportunities here. Hiring a designer could cost you around $50 per hour, plus you'll have to advertise the goods that you create. But folks will buy a lot of things these days, so just keep that in mind. Number 5, pet opportunities. So let's stick with the weirdness here. Anything we can do for people, we want to do for our pets, right? 1 in 5 dogs are experiencing some kind of pain, which is useful information if you're producing new products for pets, such as treats or capsules. Instead of hiding the medicine in the scoop of peanut butter, what if the peanut butter is the medicine? The costs here are similar to other edibles companies. Then there are the topicals. These can be vegan products that are 100% plant-based. Some people believe these products hold promise for treating animals with physiological and neurological conditions, so more regular use via oils may be wanted by certain customers. They will expect to pay between 5 cents to 30 cents per milligram for quality pet CBD oils, but you should expect to charge a 50% markup in order to ensure reasonable returns. And last but not least, we have the pet vests and blankets. Yes, you can create or sell CBD-infused pet vests and blankets. Just like the fashion apparel, the CBD is in microencapsulated beads that gradually release CBD's effects through friction. Now, this is on the steeper end of cost since it requires advanced technology. A specialized machine for binding the material with CBD costs between 3 to 40 grand. Not to mention the labor costs and sourcing the CBD itself. But I kind of think it's cool. And, you know, my dog always used to suffer from problems with lightning storms and getting scared. So, you know, the thought of a vest that not only weighs the pet down, but also infuses a little CBD. I don't know. Maybe it could work. I don't know if it works through the fur. Don't ask me. I don't have all the answers. But and I'll say this too. My head is spinning a bit at this point. And no, I'm not on an edible, although I have given them a go in the past. The amount of opportunity in the hemp and cannabis industry is just so dizzying that it can be hard to figure out where you actually fit in. I think the important thing, though, is to start small and see what fits your particular lifestyle. If it's working, then you can always grow from there. Now, as always, I have a ton of links in the show notes to help you figure out what options are actually best for you. This is really just the tip of the iceberg, so keep your eyes peeled for more opportunities that are breaking out every day in the cannabis sector. One of the books I'd like to mention is Medical Marijuana, Dr. Kogan's Evidence-Based Guide to the Health Benefits of Cannabis and CBD by Mikhail Kogan, MD, and Joan Liebmann-Smith, PhD. It goes into the history of marijuana as medicine with a dive into the evidence for the risks and benefits associated with cannabis product use. You can also check out the Cannabis Apothecary, a farm-to-table guide for using CBD and THC to promote health, wellness, beauty, restoration, and relaxation by Lori Wolf. If you're looking to get into edibles, piggybacking on these recipes could give you a decent start. That's going to do it for today's show, and I'd like to thank you for listening. If you've liked what you've heard, make sure you hit subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. I'd also like to hear from you. If you have a question, comment, or rabbit hole topic that you'd like me to cover in an upcoming show, make sure you rate and review on your podcast player. I check those all the time and cover those questions in future episodes. If you'd like to connect with me or learn more about On Call Capital, make sure to find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or visit my website at www.oncallinvestments.com. Until next time, this is Bobby Jones signing off. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Plan B CRNA podcast. If you haven't already subscribed and reviewed the show, I'd be honored if you took the extra time. It really helps to expand our reach and get the word out about the show. If you're a CRNA who is interested in sharing your story on our podcast, I'd love to have you. Please email me at bobby@oncallinvestments.com for more information. This episode was brought to you by On Call Capital. They are dedicated to helping providers like you develop passive income and generational wealth through investments in the apartment and alternative investment spaces. Feel free to check out their website at www.oncallinvestments.com and subscribe to their free educational email series. You can find On Call Capital on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also check out our YouTube page, where you'll find all of the show episodes along with other educational videos. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.